Joe Biden got some hard questions at the climate town hall, including this.
How can we trust you to hold these corporations and executives accountable for their crimes against humanity when we know that tomorrow you are holding a high-dollar fundraiser hosted by Andrew Goldman, a fossil fuel executive?
He's not a fossil fuel executive, I'm told. He is not a fossil fuel executive. And the fact of the matter is that what we talk about is, what are we going to do about those corporations? What have we done? And everywhere along the way, for example, I've argued and pushed for us suing those executives who are engaged in pollution.
What Andrew is saying is, if you're going to a fundraiser that's given in part by this guy who has a company that is pulling up natural gas, are you the right guy to go after these people?
Well, I didn't realize he does that. I was told, if you look at the SEC filings, he's not listed as one of those executives. That's what we look at, the SEC filings. Who are those executives? I've kept that pledge, period.
So are you going to look at that fundraiser tomorrow night?
I'm going to look at what you just told me and find out if that's accurate, yes.
Okay. I think it's pretty accurate.
Anderson Cooper with a little bit of spice there. Yes, it's pretty accurate. And that was, like, if that was Bernie Sanders, it would be described in headlines as Bernie oddly combative after question. That was him, like, dismissively saying, yes, I'm keeping to the pledge. But not if you actually care about the content of the pledge, because the individual that they talk about there, Andrew Goldman, yes, he is not technically, by the strictest definition, a CEO or an executive of a fossil fuel company. But he co-founded a company that starts facilities that do natural gas production. That's higher level. That creates new executives for that field. Like, that is spawning those corporations that we have a problem with. So to say that we shouldn't be worried about him is not just dishonest, but that's inverting reality in a very real way.
Absolutely. It really kind of speaks to almost the things we've already been experiencing with this current administration in terms of stretching the truth and sometimes even just giving us blatant lies. And so if Biden's platform is going to be something distinguishable and different from Trump, it would be great if he actually kind of, put that forth, as opposed to situations like this when he claims that this gentleman who co-founded Western LNG and was also his advisor when he served in the Senate is not at all involved in fossil fuels. Come on.
You have to show that you have at least some kind of understanding of the reasons why people want you to do this. So when people say, the question was direct, he goes, how can we expect you to hold these types of companies accountable if you're gonna be going to their fundraisers? You understand why people ask that question. You've been doing this for a while. So if you're gonna continue to go and say, technically he's not really on the board anymore, so therefore I'm technically holding on to the pledge, that doesn't mean anything. Nobody's talking about technicalities, and you're not a lawyer trying to get by on some kind of scheme to get your client off. You're trying to run for president. So if you need to show constituents that you understand that they're against you continuing to kowtow to these type of companies, you need to say, oh, I didn't know that. I'm gonna avoid that. Now, people may get mad and say, how are you gonna cut out a large section of voting block by oil companies? They'll be okay. Because in the past, what we've done is we've ignored constituents that have a problem with what these companies do. You've avoided them this whole time. You've ignored them the whole time. So if you're willing to do that, in those circumstances, you should be able to do it another way.
So I think you said there, correct me if I'm wrong, that he's been around for a while, so he gets why. I wonder though, if Anderson Cooper had a follow-up question, why don't they want you to take money from these executives, people who have a vested interest in fossil fuel extraction? Would he actually be able to answer it? Either could he or would he actually do it? Because to answer that honestly, a full answer, because we fear that those sorts of people will have an influence over you. The money that they give you now is an investment on affecting your policy directives when you get in office. To admit that is to admit that all of your campaign finance should be put under a magnifying glass. And I don't know if he would actually do that, or if he even could do that, if he really gets why we think it's a problem. Because his answer that he's not technically an executive implies that he doesn't get it. That guy he co-founded a company that creates facilities that exploit natural gas. If that sort of person is your advisor, if he's raising money for you and you say you're gonna do something about fracking, now I don't think he's one of the ones that says he's gonna ban it, but he says more regulations, why would we believe that? Why would these people be pumping money into your campaign if you're gonna shut them down? That would be madness. And I don't think that they're mad. I think that they're savvy with who they donate to. And so for you to continue to accept that money implies to me that you don't take it seriously whatsoever. And the vague promises you make about your potential climate platform should not be taken at face value.
Absolutely, it does convey that he is essentially disingenuous. And we are able to see this largely by actions as opposed to his words. And his words in terms of feigning ignorance, we can see right through that to begin with, claiming, oh, I didn't know what this gentleman did, or oh, I don't necessarily know his title. Come on, you should know better, especially when this man was your advisor when you were in the Senate. Yeah. And so again, actions versus words, and it just makes me realize how much more we are going to get more of Trump.
Yeah. And by the way, I guess I've sort of buried the lead. I mean, we're talking about stuff coming from the climate town hall, and so time has come and gone. He did go to that fundraiser. He ended up doing it. He did the fact checking he said he would to Anderson Cooper, and you know what? He's okay, stamp of approval, Biden is gonna go there. But he said this, and this is just a great quote. So he said at the fundraiser, I just wanna be very clear to everyone here that I am committed to not raising money from fossil fuel executives, and I'm not doing that here. And all the people who are just taking every bit of energy out of the ground and burning it up and ruining our climate, they're like, that's a great point, Joe. You're the best, here's some more money.
Well, you missed the second half of that quote. He said, because I'm taking all the money that was raised at this fundraiser, and I'm giving it to cleanup operations and certain cities there's cities and states all over the country that have to deal with contaminated pipes, and not just Flint. So pipes that are destroying people's lives and pumping through different kinds of contaminants into their system. He's giving that money to them. That's what he's raising money from fossil fuels company for. Am I right? Did I miss that part of the quote?
Sure.
I don't think that's what it is.
Because he said he's not doing it as he's doing it, so he must not really be doing it.
So look, I obviously was not I'm not involved in the creation of this pledge. I've talked about it on my shows, but so why don't we turn to the people who actually put together this pledge to see whether or not they accept his explanation. Well, we have a comment from David Turnbull, spokesman for Oil Change US. This is one of the organizations that helped to organize that pledge that he swears he's still abiding by. That spokesman said, while it may not technically violate the pledge, it clearly goes against its spirit. We define the pledge's rule to make it simple for candidates to commit to and follow, not to provide loopholes to continue raising funds from fossil fuel adjacent sources. And so look, we might all disagree on exactly where you should draw the line. Should they be going through every donation, no matter how small, to find out what industry that person worked for? Like, so if somebody makes $50,000 a year working at an oil field, should you accept money from them? We can sort of disagree about that. But this isn't a donation, this isn't a single thing. This is a wealthy, influential person that you have a past with that you definitely know about. Don't pretend you have no clue what business they're in, who is organizing a fundraiser for you. And maybe it's crazy, but I have this sneaking suspicion that when he's choosing who to bring to this fundraiser for Biden, some of them might be in the oil game, maybe.
Perhaps.
Anyway, look, he got through this first town hall, I guess. There's been some criticism. So far it hasn't really stuck, in part because it was a climate town hall and so nobody watches, because the potential death of our civilization isn't a big ratings booster. But there are gonna be other town halls, and there are gonna be debates where these questions are gonna be brought up. And I hope that his continued non-compliance with this, if he keeps doing fundraisers like this, becomes a problem for him, because it's not an issue we can afford to just let him skate by on.
Absolutely.
The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.